One of my favorite things about this channel is that I get replays consistently that will challenge kind of base assumptions that either myself or a lot of people in the community will have. One of those currently is that demonic units are generally seen as terrible, but I think most people would agree that Nurgle is broadly an exception to that rule because their demonic units have so much HP, capacity to heal, capacity to mitigate damage via various means. They are quite tanky, and thus they are pretty resilient to demonic instability, which is kind of the biggest downside of demonic units, right? But anyway, let's take a look at the build here. We've got a couple of Nurglings, and then lots of Plague Bears. 5 Plague Bears, with Uncle for Uncle here as a big terror central piece. A Herald of Nurgle with Lore of Death, which to me is actually a super interesting and good choice, honestly, because you get both damage and healing. Locus of Fecundity being an activatable ability, and then of course damage from Lore of Death, Spirit Leech, and an additional armor debuff in Soul Blight. I say additional because we also do have the Cultist in here somewhere. Nurgle Cultist. A lot of people forget about the Cultists, but you definitely shouldn't if you're playing Mono Gods. These guys have a lot of upside to them. Nurgle Boy in particular has Armor Sundering, plus a lot of really good items and abilities. This Icon of Eternal Virulence, Warrior Brain, both will debuff weapon strength additionally, right? Poison already does that. He also gets Summon, Gate of Nurgle, if he can manage to take a decent amount of damage for himself. Regeneration, of course. And not the best combatant, but that Armor Sundering in particular does synergize quite well with the high weapon strength of Plague Bears. We've also got Barons of the Bog here, Regiment of Renown, to debuff weapon strength even more with their little ability there. Debuffs mass also, which is kind of funny, and Vigor Refresh. So for the Beastmen, had a little bit of a front vanguard here of some Gores who are going to engage the Nurglings initially and do some damage to them, maybe even take out some Chav. Got some Centaurs throwing axes as well. We've got some Goreherds with shields. More Centaur throwing axes over here. And then lots of Minotaur's great weapons with a Doom Bull, Wargore, and Lore of Wild Bray Shaman. So all of this is very good. Like, I have absolutely no criticisms of the Beastman's build here initially. One thing I will say about the Beastman's play here from the start, maybe a minor mistake, probably not huge, but you got to be really careful about how you use your ammunition against Nurgle. Like, I mean, not that these Plague Bearers are low value targets by any means, but they have so much HP, you're kind of not wasting your ammunition, but they're going to absorb a lot of it, right? And it won't be as efficient value-wise as if you had saved it. Try and get in here to the Uncle for Uncle and just use it exclusively pretty much on him. Like, there's not really, I mean, it's the most highest value target by far in this army, and he does have a crap load of HP, so you will need all of that ammunition and probably more to take him out. So just a small thing there, but we're going to get into combat here and just start to wear things down. And they're more than happy to just take the throwing axes on the Plague Bears, like I said. A little bit of Traderkin there, upgraded, actually doesn't hit Uncle for Uncle. Again, possibly a mistake, but Nurgle has the capacity to heal all of these units, and especially Herald himself getting in there with that Locus of Fecundity. Yeah, affects all allies in range. It doesn't have like a max number of targets, unlike something like Earthblood. It does have a max number of uses, but still, you can heal an enormous blob with that ability, so it's definitely quite good. And over here we do see some of these demonic units kind of get charged, but even still the Nurglings managing to hold on to their leadership and not suffer demonic instability as they kind of counterattack, start to drag down some of those Gores and Minotaurs. So we'll keep things close. A little bit of Spirit Leech on the Minotaurs as well. Will be a decent way of dealing damage to them, although probably just Spirit Leeching Doom Bull exclusively would be better. We'll see. Probably switch targets onto them soon, but yeah, Uncle for Uncle can also help protect Herald here, which is nice because he's relatively slow and vulnerable. Definitely wouldn't take him in some matchups, but I don't know, honestly. He's so tanky for what he is. I mean, he doesn't have a ton of HP, but huge melee defense, definitely. And armor-piercing damage in melee. Yeah, I'm a fan of Herald generally. Palanquin can also be a decent choice if you're not too worried about anti-large and you want the extra armor and HP. The Palanquin, I mean, it's not any faster, but it does make him a little bit more tanky in that way. But, I mean, Doom Bull comes in here. His support pretty quickly evaporates. Wargore kind of gets punted away and loses his attack, and then just moves away as Doom Bull also tries to disengage. But he took a lot of damage there from Uncle for Uncle and the Herald together, although he was able to deal some pretty good damage back. Can't heal, unlike the Nurgle bros, right? All of which can heal. If we take an overall view of the battlefield here, the one thing also, Beastmen, again, they're kind of attacking these Minotaurs into infantry and sort of mid to lower value units. All of this is going to wear them down over time, and you're going to run into a situation as the Beastmen where you don't have the resources to kill Uncle for Uncle, and it's definitely a situation where you need to think about your target priority, right? Like, what's the most dangerous unit for my opponent? I mean, granted, Beastmen don't have any, like, Zangors, which would be pretty decent here for the extra armor and the magical attacks to cut through the physical resistance of the Plague Bearers, right? And these other demonic units. You know, they don't have any, obviously. It would have been the most ideal infantry here, but regardless, just figuring out ways to wear down these Plague Bearers without using too much resources in terms of your ammunition and wearing down these anti-large units. Yeah, Herald here, slowly moving in with Uncle for Uncle. And the Minotaurs doing their best to try and avoid, but ultimately, you know, poison and everything else will lead to them getting caught down to 53 speed, so that even the Barons of the Bog at 65 can catch up. They're going to move in with their more elite status, armor piercing, not anti-large, but still. They've also got Soul Blight on them, debuffing their armor down to just 5. Going to be taking maximum damage from all this stuff, but yeah, let's see how things go here. Cultist also has taken enough damage that I think he'll be able to actually get his summon out here. Yeah, it's got to be available to him. Hit points are definitely less than 75 and has been for quite some time, so let's keep an eye on that as continuous Spirit Leeches go into those Minotaurs. Yep, looks like we do see the summon here, so this fight, he's like teetering on his leadership. These Plague Bearers are taking significant damage, but then all of a sudden, yeah, I mean, this Plague Bear just gets like a full surround on these Minotaur units, and they have enough mass that the Minotaurs can't really pull out super easily. They're going to actually lose their attack order and just start to get completely circle beaten. That high weapon strength 48 means that the Plague Bears actually trade very well into Minotaurs, and just generally into any Beastman units that don't have a lot of armor, which is most of them, right? Almost all of them, so yeah, we've got these Barons of the Bog continuing to fight just fine. Uncle for Uncle has still like tens of thousands, yeah, 10,600 HP, so there you go. A little bit more Spirit Leech there into the Doom Bowl as he struggles to fight effectively. It's nice, too, that you can have that Spirit Leech so that the Herald, because he's so slow, will struggle to get into melee combat. You can still be generating some damage value over time with that Spirit Leech. In fact, if we take a look, he only has 1 kill, but 800 damage value just from Spirit Leeching, pretty much exclusively, plus the healing, of course, has been quite decent. So, yeah, that summon also just completely breaks this entire engagement. It leads to Nurgle winning out, Grey Shaman getting a little bit isolated there. It's coming down to just the single entities for the Beastmen, which is really not great, considering the battlefield situation. Nurgle still being quite healthy. These Plague Bearers screening nicely for these single entities as they advance cohesively. And Sage has been doing a great job of keeping his units together as much as possible. There's that Locus of Fecundity that we've been looking for, I think. Maybe? Something just popped off there. No, there's Locus of Fecundity. Okay, so, yeah, Vigor also is a huge factor, right? Refreshing Vigor in a fight like this. Just an absolutely back-breaking component of that heal. I mean, it doesn't heal a huge amount of Vigor, but just over time can help kind of refresh those units. Yeah, see, those Plague Bearers are actually active, which is just insane to me. Uncle Frunkle is not quite exhausted. It's very tired still, which is quite nice, but yeah, moving on now for the final engagement as one more long-range Spirit Leech overcast for the additional casting range. It's going to hit Doom Bowl and likely finish off his leadership. I love that the Cultist is also like chasing off a unit of Centaurs out there in the distance. Just on a journey all of his own. Really nice. Vile Tide hits everything here, and I mean, I would imagine Vile Tide's been feasting value here. Yeah, no question, punishing a blob like this is kind of what it was designed for, but Nurgle's blob is unlike any other, especially supported properly like this, and it's been just taking the damage on the chin, basically, and just pushing straight through it, which is very much what Nurgle's all about. So let's watch some attack animations of Uncle Frunkle here as he cleaves through a few Minotaurs. there into the bog also. We see another Spirit Leech there on the Minotaurs. Poor Cowboys not had a good time. Similar to this year's NFL playoffs. Any of you guys are into American football. Not that this is a tangent that I should probably go down right now, but American football is great for nerds if you want to see more. Maybe I'll talk about that another time. But anyway. Yeah, interesting. Almost all demons here, other than the cultist who just summons more demons, right? Like, actually ends up being very effective. Just attrition build, very classic kind of Nurgle play style. And I love the pick of the Herald also, was very effective in supporting this build and helping it to work effectively. Like him and Uncle for Uncle, I feel like have some nice synergy, especially against a more melee-oriented faction, which for the Beastmen here, I would probably try and take a lot of Ungor Raiders in this matchup. Like, it can be a little bit awkward if you end up running into a lot of heavy armor Nurgle units, right? If they go heavily into, like, Knights or something, but generally, a lot of Nurgle's higher value kind of single entities, which you may see in this matchup, just because historically Beastmen have been somewhat weak to big terror-causing single entities. Like, you need those Ungor Raiders for the volume of fire and damage on the lower armor, high-value single entities like Uncle for Uncle. Few Ungor Raiders, doesn't take much either, can really put a hurt on him, and they're also pretty fast. I mean, for infantry, they can outrun any infantry for Nurgle. You really only have to worry about screening their mobile units like hounds or, you know, the toads. So Ungor Spearman herds definitely can be effective in that way. Another one also, considering Nurgle's slowness, is actually the Cygor. Cygor can be quite effective in this matchup at just pounding Nurgle on the advance. It also has some stats to try and fight in melee as well. In particular, the Regiment of Renown Cygor. I'm thinking for the extra accuracy, extra melee stats, the fact that it has this hard snare as well, so you can maybe try and control the blob a little bit once it gets close. Maybe try and single out a specific target and beat it down. Yeah, likewise, a Giant might also be a decent choice in this matchup. It's got a massive amount of HP and damage for relatively low cost, so it can try and pound out some Nurgle units in melee. They're not really going to have any range to try and punish it, so definitely an option to look into. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. It's definitely an interesting matchup. Certainly an interesting game, but love to see the demons performing well there. So if you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.